We're going to kind of walk through an existing location where we're coming in, and this is going to be a banged up kind of floor. So it's just a general survey of what I need to gather so I can come up with a price. And I'm looking for a couple of things. One, what do I price out to them? What auxiliary products would I recommend to them or services? And then also, what kind of warnings do I need to both give to them verbally and make sure I document when I send the quote to ensure that we're protected about it. I know this floor has a lot of scars and history to it, and I want to make sure that we get the expectations in the right place with the customer. So right away from the beginning, you look at the threshold of the door. We can see that we have some recess right here where this is low and that kind of thing. The only way we can really fix that is to take this door threshold up, fill in this space, polish it, and then put the door threshold back down. They're normally hold by some screws like that. Pretty easy to do. It would be a line item. A lot of people may not be interested in it. All the way across the front, we see this different finishing. In this case, this is some existing coating that hasn't been removed yet. So we may not see this too much. This is aluminum storefront. We do want to take being careful with these because if you scuff them, it's not super easy to repair. So we want to tape this off and protect it and grind across here and get this smooth. This is where this coating's been pushed up against the thing. So you can see a gap here and it's kind of mushed up against the surface here. We're going to polish this out, come across here, get it pretty smooth and stuff like that. But we want to warn them that they might see that. Over here is a bolt. This is just something that we can't get around. Like our grinder won't fit inside of here. So we talked to the client and say, hey, you can either need to remove this, which in this case you probably cannot do, or just warn them that, hey, we're gonna see it's gonna kind of go like this. So you're gonna end up with a 2.5 inch radius. So that probably looks something like this. This is the area that we can polish. This over here is not gonna be polished or ground down very well. We do have small edging tools in there. A detailed customer, we can say, hey, you know what, we have that edging tool. If this is a really high-end finish and stuff like that, we can put that in there. It's a little bit more expensive, but for your basic, hey, I'm gonna come in here and get this off, that's kind of what your profile is gonna look like. Lots of scarring in the floor. This is epoxy that's left behind. We're gonna need to cut this off. We wanna get this out of the way, but it's kind of low here, so we're gonna have to do some aggressive grinding to get these features out. Here's something that we run into a lot too. Properly hung sheetrock is to be put up on spacers. So you have a gap underneath the sheetrock like this. Sheetrock technically is not supposed to touch a concrete floor because it would whip moisture up into the floor and damage the sheetrock. For us, it's really important because this is where slurry is gonna go. So we want this separation so when we come back with our wet vac, we can get the slurry out from underneath here and the sheetrock doesn't get damaged. This is properly installed sheetrock, and that's a good thing. If you look really close, when you get to corner beads, these are something we need to warn a customer about. You know, we're gonna get as close as we can to this, but the corner bead also is supposed to be off the floor. A lot of times these will be on the floor even if the sheetrock is not. Our machines love to grab this corner bead and peel it off of the corner of the thing. We have to warn the customer that that's gonna happen. We're not gonna get all of them, but we're probably gonna get one of them. Coming in, so you can see that there was a tank or a pit or something was here before. So what you have is the concrete floor, and then you got like a wall or maybe a ledge. We're not sure what's underneath it. When you see this look, many times this will actually have cinder block underneath it that's been skimmed over. So when we grind off, you may see the top of a concrete block or a cinder block. Those don't polish, they're very porous. Something to look for and be considerate of and warn the customer, hey, that might be what this is. In this case, I think it's a poured wall and a pit. Then the inside of it has been filled in. This is different concrete than this and the wall that's in the middle. All three of those are gonna polish differently, they're gonna look differently. If we were staining, they would stain differently. Got some really big scarring in the floors here. These are deep. And again, in concrete, when you're grinding, a long ways is 1/8 of an inch. These, probably 1/4 to 3/8 of an inch deep. We've gotta clean this out and we gotta fill it back in. This customer is looking for a functional, serviceable floor that's easy to clean and looks attractive. This is not an Armani showroom. This is a construction material supply house. They want to know that they can bring a pallet in here, drop it on the floor, move it out, drop a forklift through, hand trucks, not damage the floor, and it always look good and clean. You can see this shiny little space right here. That's a bolt, and that's a big bolt sticking up through the floor. This we need to drive down and then polish over, or we got to cut it off. So that's just something that the guys have to look for because a bolt that size will wreak a little bit of havoc on our grinders. Little surface things like this, these little scratches, this kind of thing we'll probably be able to grind through and polish out. This floor, you're definitely going to be seeing aggregate in. I would tell this customer, probably all the small defects and stuff you see, we're going to grind 80% of those away. The big ones and the rest of those, that 20%, you're definitely going to still see them. Never promise to patch every hole or every pinhole or anything else like that. It's impossible to get them all, but we're going to get 85 to 90% of them. When you get to a doorway like this, remember to remind the client, you're going to come in, you got that same outside corner, we're going to polish just like that. But an inside corner, we're going to have to follow along and you're going to end up with that radius. When you come to a doorway, you have to talk to them, where do I stop my polish? We typically aim to stop wherever the door is. So in this case, the door is on the back side. So you want to finish right underneath it. That's more applicable for coatings than polishing, but you want to make sure the client understands, hey, is it okay if I polish back in here like this? And then that way, when the door is shut, it looks like it's polished, and what's in the side, it's a storage room. In this case, make sure they're okay with that. Otherwise, we would put a 2x4 down in the door here and polish to a straight edge. Here you got a base plate, same kind of thing. You know, you're going to end up with that inside corner around a base plate. You know, it's still going to be the same corner coming in like that. We can get that, but it won't be polished in that corner really, really well. We're just going to kind of get the surface to look like the same color. This is a crack coming through this area. This is going to be a judgment call. You know, you can see cracks down through here. What we're going to do is we don't want to make cracks bigger when we're polishing concrete just so we can fill them. It is proper to do it that way as far as structural integrity and stuff like that, trying to make cracks, you know, better. If we were doing a coating, we would route that crack out by using a grinder with a vertical wheel. We'd route it out and get a fresh cut on both sides, fill it back in because you're never going to see it once you put the coating down. For polished concrete, it's really much more about what do I need to do to make the floor look good. If the crack's really wide, okay, it might make sense for me to do a patch. 90% of the cracks you see on a polished concrete floor that's a candidate for polishing, we're going to ignore. This is getting to the size of a crack we might need to do something about. Just because of the width of it, you know, if this has got a lot of indentation. By the time we grind across here, we take the elevation down a little bit, this may not be that big a deal. But there's no separation. These cracks are tight. It's not like I can put a penny vertical inside the crack or anything like that. It's not really going to do much with it. If there's some separation, that's where we can talk about putting joint filler inside of a crack or a crack repair product as well. Something real thin and watery that'll go down in there and bond it to it. This is a bit of a mess of a repair. There was a hole here, somebody's filled the hole in with something, and then you've got all this beat up stuff around it. This is gonna be a tough fix for us. Mostly this is gonna be done with something like a product like TX3. We're gonna get this all prepped and primed and go away. We're gonna grind down as much as we can because it's easier and cheaper for us to grind than it is for us to do a lot of patching and repair. Otherwise, we're gonna come in here, we may have to bring a small shot blaster in to clean out some of these holes really fast. Squeegee the TX3 around and then grind it back smooth, and so that, you know, basically the repair is gonna be everywhere that you see this yellow coloring, just because that's the low areas. We're gonna grind it all flat. Here, got an electrical piece of conduit. Very common, you'll see this right here. If you see that trench that's coming right across here, that's where somebody has cut the concrete so that they could put the electrical conduit in and then pour back with a replacement concrete. Inevitably, that replacement concrete is the lowest quality bag mixed, poorly installed, and it's typically low. We tell customers, if you're going to be doing trenching before we get here, it is better for it to be high than low because we can grind it down. High meaning like 1/8 or 1/4 of an inch high. Low means I got to take the whole floor around it down. And typically this concrete is soft. Same kind of thing in this situation. You know, we've got, you can see the outline of a steel pipe right here. That's going to be something that's going to be a steel ring when you see it in the polish of it. Patching, this has been around it and patched it. Lots of holes in it here. So, you know, like I said, there's still just a lot of repair on this floor. And as long as the customer understands there's gonna be a lot of repair and that it's still gonna be visible, it's fine. These are hard things to patch. Long, skinny patches like this, you know, as much as we can grind through them, we want to, and then we can kind of clean them out and put the TX3 or a material like that. If this were a highly architectural finish, you know, we would probably recommend that we grind all the way through and do a full aggregate exposure on this floor. A long skinny thing like this is also something where we could grind down, we could create a trench and do a square type repair area. We might square off this whole thing, put an overlay in this space. It's about a quarter, about 3/8 of an inch thick. And then it would just look like one big patch rather than a whole bunch of little ones. This is a strange situation. This has got a pipe, some sort of metal inlay has been in here, and then the concrete's all broken up around it. This is something you want to look at the customer and say, hey man, we got a couple of options. Here's what I would do. I would come in here and chip this out and put a true PC is a product that we would typically use. Maybe try and turn this into a square, or just kind of clean up this edge a little bit and put one patch here that's not broken up like that. The reason this is breaking is you've got this piece of conduit, or whatever it is. The joint's coming in here, the joint's coming in this way, and then these pieces are just kind of breaking up around them. So if we were to repair this, I would repair it, and then I would cut through our repair and have that joint continue along the way.